This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 55. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak, brought to you in conjunction with world-famous comics.com. Peter, you're making a funny face.
I don't know if I can hear you.
I didn't even get through the intro.
I'm fine.
You just screwed up our show. Start over. You know? No, we're not starting over. Damn it, we never start over. Brought to you in conjunction with worldfamouscomics.com, your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Matty D. Oh, I mean Matt.
Johnny DC.
Kevin Moyer. Shane Kelly.
The original Jamie D.
And I'm Peter D. Peter D. Rios.
What the hell's going on here? Play.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
Sure you don't want to start over?
No. Hang on, no.
You should.
Okay. Welcome to the show. Peter, can you hear me now?
I just want to make sure you can be heard. Good.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Good.
I have a big mouth, though. It
Got
shouldn't
your
be a
back.
problem. Okay. Welcome to the show.
How's everybody's week's going? How's everybody's week going?
How's it?
How's everybody's week going?
As good as your...
As good as your vocabulary, yeah. All right, what the hell are we doing in this show, Peter? Oh, wait, I know. When we start the show, I have to do the reminders. God, I even have my cheat sheet here, and I just threw it away. Contest reminder for the month of September. The contest is find a road sign, a billboard, a name of a business, something like that has a name in it that somehow references comics. You know, maybe it's, Defender's Video Store, what the hell ever it would be, it doesn't matter. You take a picture of that, because that's comic related and it's kind of amusing. But to prove that you took it for the purposes of this show, you must have a sign in that show, is some piece of paper, a sticker, something that says, Comic Geek Speak. So it can be you holding the sign, whatever. And also a prop. So if you were standing in front of, Odin Drive, put on a fake Viking helmet, stand there, hold your sign that says Comic Geek Speak, take the picture, send it in. The person who has what we think is the best picture will receive compliments of Tomorrow's Publishing. They will receive a subscription to either Alter Ego magazine or Back Issue magazine, a 1-year subscription. So we think that's a pretty sweet prize, and hopefully that will get you off your asses and out there with your digital cameras taking some pictures. So that's the contest. You have till the end of September. The September Book of the Month Club is Fables Volume 1, Legends in Exile by Bill Willingham. It's Vertigo book. It's an excellent, excellent story. If you would like to buy that, you can get a 40% discount on that, thanks to InStockTrades.com. And so we'll be doing that at the end of September as well. Very good. Any other business we need to get out of the way?
Yeah, we also, in episode 54, I put out a new Stump the Audience, 3 questions for Stump the Audience, and the prize is the, I can't believe it's not the Justice League.
Can't believe it's not the Justice League.
From JSA Classified, 6 issues of that. So if you didn't hear the questions, go back and listen to episode 54, because they are in there. And the first person that sends us an email with the correct answers will win those 6 issues, and we'll ship that sucker out to you.
Cool.
The only other thing, I guess, is the Google ads. We're doing a little thing with that.
Yep.
We want you just once a day to click both of those ads. We want to see, we're so close to that $100 mark where we can get some new equipment for the show. And we just want to see what kind of funds it generates. If all the listeners just go out there and just click both ads once a day this whole week.
Right.
We're going to be at Baltimore. This should air before that, right?
Yeah, this one will air, yeah.
So if you're going there, post on the board. We'll try to hook up with everybody.
Hey, did you start that sticky yet, Peter?
Nope.
Get on that.
Do it. Do it now.
Okay, let's go right into some listener emails. This one is from Rory. It says, "Hey guys and gal, I love your show. You have great entertaining banter and sound very informed. I rarely pick up a comic book, but find myself listening to your show in spite of that. I have one suggestion, however. Could you find a way to better equalize the volume levels in your show? I find myself constantly cranking down up the volume. I'm not an audio engineer, so please take this with a grain of salt, but I think you could pick up a fairly inexpensive audio mixer at Radio Shack or some similarly themed electronic store. I'd donate $5. Thanks, Rory. Well, Rory, we do have a mixer. The problem is we have some fairly cheap quality microphones, and in order to, I could do a little test for you here. If I turn up the volume on my mic, you hear that hiss in the background, so we have the mics turned down to just the point where we can get a little hiss but not too much, and it sort of limits our volume ability. But we're going to be, as soon as we get the Google ad money and some other things, we're going to be buying a new mixer and some new microphones, much better quality microphones that will hopefully eliminate some of the hiss and allow us to have a louder show. So we know about it and we're working on it. In the meantime, just keep adjusting your volume.
Please.
But if you still want to donate $5, that's fine. This one from Tony Adams. Hi, I recently entered the world of podcast listening by subscribing to yours and a couple others through iTunes. I really like what I hear. Do you have any tips on how to create a podcast? I know next to nothing about RSS, XML, and the like. I know you need a mic, something to record on, and then what? I have a website and a blog, but don't know how to do much with either, and any advice or tips would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, and keep up the good work, Tony Adams. P.S. How do I get your podcast without using iTunes? I'd like to hear the older shows as well. Well, you can go to our blog at comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com, where you can get all of the older shows. As far as tips on how to do a podcast, with the danger of boring the rest of our audience, I will just skip that, and I will just tell you the way I did it was I just Googled how to podcast, and I read, the first 10 pages that came up, and I learned everything I needed to know. People have examples of RSS files, all that stuff, and that should explain everything much better than I can, so that's what I recommend doing. And listen to Adam Curry's show, the Daily Source Code. It's just at curry.com, or get it through iTunes, because all he talks about is stuff going on in the world of podcasting, and he sometimes talks about what equipment and all that kind of stuff. Whoa, all right. Another novella.
Hooah.
Oh.
Wow.
Whew.
Oh, I think I'm going to paraphrase this one. Let's start at the beginning and... Oh, yeah, because he has something quoted from Comic Book Resources, so maybe we'll just link to that or something. He says, I think you should definitely address the issue of Wizard... Oh.
We already did that.
We nipped this one in the bud. Yeah, he's going to talk about the whole Wizard scheduling, Wizard Atlanta over Heroes Con now.
Who's he?
Tom Bolton. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And
Say hi to your brother Michael.
I emailed him back and said, hey, we're going to, keep listening for the next interview, and then that was the Garib Sheamus thing, so... Thanks, Tom, for the email, but I think Garib could answer your questions better than we could, so... Okay, I gotta go on to Oh, that's unstar that one. Oh, I'm flying through listener emails here today. Okay. This one from Amy Jane in Nottingham, England.
Yay.
Hi, boys. I've only just started listening to your show, episode 41. She just started listening to episode 41. We're now recording episode 55. I've just started getting into comics, graphic novels by DC Vertigo mainly, and my local comic book guy has got me interested into Mirror Mask as it is done by Neil Gaiman. Have you discussed it yet? If so, what episode? If not, are you looking forward to it? She gave us XXX. So kisses from Amy.
Nice.
She says, P.S. As far as the manga competition goes, maybe you should get Lena Taylor, who does the I Read Comics podcast, as she is really getting good. Well, she does talk about manga.
Yeah.
That's true. So has anyone know what this Mirror Mask thing is all about?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's Neil Gaiman and
Well, we know that.
Dave McKeon, and it's I think it's actually a follow-up to Labyrinth or Dark Crystal, or one of those. It's done with Jim Henson.
Interesting.
It's done with Jim Henson, their whole thing. I don't know that much about it. I know it's coming out in like October, November, December, somewhere.
So will
in
David
there.
Bowie be in it? That's what I want to know.
That I'm not sure. There's a lot of stuff that's being printed in a lot of like the Starlog magazines and places like that. I haven't got a chance to read that much about it, other than the fact that I know it's Henson came to Neil Gaiman to write it and do it, and like I said,
It's awesome.
I'm pretty sure it's a follow-up to Labyrinth.
Both of those movies are awesome. Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. Oh man.
There is some kind of Dark Crystal sequel book or movie, something in the works too. But yeah, I think Jamie's right. It is Labyrinth.
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to it myself, just to see what he does with it.
I just hope it
Yep.
actually winds up in theaters around here. I've seen ads for it, but it's always in select theaters. So
Well, yeah, I think it may be one of those where it'll open up in select theaters, but it'll come maybe a wide release. If not, then we just have to travel to Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Or catch it on DVD.
travel.
All right, next one from Tony Helt in London. We got a lot of English listeners. This is cool.
Well, it's a good thing we speak the language. That's the whole thing.
That's right. Yeah, why don't we have a lot of listeners from Ukraine? I don't get it. Okay, this one it says, "Hey Brian and the guys, love the show. I'm one of those iTunes newbies, but I have gone back and gotten the back issues. Do you think the addition of podcasting in iTunes, in effect, was like relaunching your show at episode 1 again?" And it really was, because, well, we even did like a recap issue because we had so many people tuning in for the first time. Thankfully, you haven't done the usual comic book thing, multiple foil covers, new creative team, and of course, everything you know about the comic geeks is wrong. Anyway, what I was wondering was, what was the most ridiculous scene or twist you've seen in comics? It could be anything, a fight scene, a plot twist, someone coming back from the dead, or anything. Oh, he's talking about a recent thing here. I think I'm going to have to skip over. Yeah, he's talking about Marvel Knight Spider-Man 8, which is too recent, so I can't spoil it. But he says, "I can't believe Mark Miller scripted that. Surely that was the artist going over the top." I've probably seen worse, but that was something recent. Yeah, he's something from Marvel Knights Spider-Man 8. Okay, time to go. Thanks for the show, Tony Helt. So, most ridiculous scene in comics? Does anybody have any ideas? That's tough, man.
God,
We read
how
so
many are there?
comics.
Jeez.
Well, Kevin, he's made his
Yeah,
known.
The return of Norman Osborn is the most ridiculous thing I've seen. So, well, yeah, asinine as well as ridiculous. You
I'll
can put in
say-
many adjectives as you want, but it sucks no matter
I'll
what.
say it's not comic book per se, but I'll say the playground fight scene in the Daredevil movie. That's just absurd. I mean, absolutely ludicrous. I don't know, Avi, what the hell were you doing that day? Were you getting your hair on your back pulled? I mean, what's going on? Like, what, could anything possibly have been more important than eliminating that scene from the movie? But anyway.
Comics, I would have to go to my collection and just start flipping through. I don't know if this will spoil it for Matt because he's currently reading Legends, but he won't remember. When Darkseid, that one big splash page on the end of issue 4 or something like that, where he's like, I'm crushing the heroes, and now I shall unleash my warhounds, and he has this big metallic dog that he's going to go out, and it was just kind of like, what? You remember that?
I vaguely remember that, but also another Darkseid ridiculous moment is from the original Kirby New Gods, when Orion and the humans that he saved from Apocalypse walk into that room, and Darkseid is just sitting in that little chair, just like waiting for them in the dark, just sitting in his normal chair.
That's crazy.
I can't remember the exact wording, but it was a storyline that crossed between, I think Nightwing was in there as well, but Batman, I think Robin, but definitely Green Arrow with Connor Hawke, brother of the Monkey Fist, where all of a sudden at the very end, there's just that Batman makes that line to Connor Hawke, "You're number 2 now in the martial arts world," and anyone who wants to go to number 1 has to go through you first. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't rank anywhere in there at all, Batman? You mean Connor Hawke could kick your ass? Is that what you're telling him? I thought that was pretty stupid.
I don't know.
It's I mean, I know. I
was
they're-
thinking like anytime, some of the numerous times they brought Magneto back after he's going to be dead or something like that. God.
Bringing him back after the Grant Morrison run
Yeah.
and just going, oh, well, that's the whole Zorn thing, twisting it and shit. That's just flat out just stupid. It's not even ridiculous. It's stupid.
Well, they didn't bring him back. It wasn't him.
Well, whatever.
For me, it's in a now classic issue of Fantastic Four number 4, where Doctor Doom sends them in the past to get Blackbeard's treasure chest, and that's exactly what they bring back to him, just the treasure chest. It's like one of those you're waiting for the wah wah when he like opens it up, and it's like, oh, curse you, Dukes! I'm gonna go get you. It's like, jeez, you know, you're expecting a Dukes of Hazzard episode with Boss Hogg gets fooled. Say Boss Doom. Oh, it was Dukes.
I also kind of think it was really stupid for all the hype of the death of Superman to bring back 4 and then go through that whole storyline. I never cared much for some of that. I could have done without
one
some
word,
of those.
Bane.
Yeah, well, yeah. That is
Actually, the whole resolution of that story, of the breaking of the back.
that was really done too stupidly.
I think we have to revisit this.
Yeah, we
Because
need time to
until
think
we
some
have
research.
to go do some research. Flat out ridiculous, as opposed to stories that we don't like, but just flat out ridiculous things. Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Ambush Bug. Every single issue.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, I just mean as in ridiculous, as in it's supposed to be ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's brilliant.
Well, I agree.
Okay.
And he even used the dark side sitting in the little chair.
Yeah, they did.
And then at the fast food takeout window.
All right. Next email is from Justin. He says,
Hey
hey guys, my name is Justin. I'm 23 years old, worship Marvel and Spider-Man in particular. I live in Arizona, and I absolutely love your show. Found you guys on iTunes the day podcasting became available with the 4.9 update, and you are tied for second on my list of favorite podcasts. You are almost at the level of the Force.net's podcast, but not quite. Oh, those Star Wars people. Jamie and Matt are my favorites, 2 shiznit pimps, although the whole gang is growing on me. I feel like I know you guys, and you're all my friends from listening and laughing with you guys. I downloaded every single show I could on iTunes and have been steadily working my way through them all, starting at episode 3, until today. I'm currently on episode 35. I believe the first one after the 4.9 update became available. And I noticed there's no more show notes. What happened? This will not be my last email to you guys, so I just wanted to say that your show brings me great joy, and continue doing what you're doing. Crusaders away. Ultimate Justin. Well, we do have show notes. Peter just sometimes is lazy and doesn't get them out till like 3 or 4 after.
I'm not back that far.
You
though.
shiftless.
No. But when
Well,
he
but
wrote
back
this,
then-
Oh.
when he wrote this,
I see.
there were
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
a couple
okay.
episodes missing.
I did want to comment. It's funny, it should mention about Jamie and me is we're actually in talks right now for a spin-off series.
The Jamie D show.
That's right.
And that will be trademarked, so no Johnny D, none of that.
All right.
It's like which of the Beatles is going to leave first.
It's funny, he said he was going to send us the next email, and the next email is from him. Hey, guys, just wondering if you were going to talk about Sky High. I know it's a Disney kids movie, but it's all about superheroes, and I'd like to hear your opinion on a superhero movie that's not based on a comic character. Every show you've done has been interesting, and I love how you keep the content fresh. I didn't see it.
I wanted to go see it, but it's
Even though my likeness is in it, I didn't go see it either.
yeah. That's to me. That's one I'll hit on DVD. Yep.
Yep, agreed.
It
I
seemed
didn't
like it
see
was a good idea when it was originally called X-Men, but
But the fans want it, so one day we'll all sit and watch
Yep.
it, and then
Yeah,
we'll talk a
we'll
little bit
watch
about
it.
it. Yeah.
Do we have... What time is it? We have time for one more?
Yeah, keep going.
going.
We have to get through these. Oh, okay. This one is from John in Falls Church, Virginia. Gentlemen, this is my first email to you. In case you are interested, I got into comic books during college in the late 80s. The first book I bought was the Dan Jurgens Flash Gordon maxi series. The Justice League with Max Lord, Blue Beetle et al. Is what hooked me. Although the duties of family, 2 kids under 7, and a wife who tolerates but does not understand comics, reduce the amount of time available to read comics, I still get a few titles each month, most notably Astro City whenever it comes out. I discovered your show via iTunes right before the second week of my vacation, which I spent at home cleaning out the laundry room and then preparing a large portion of my comics collection for eventual sale, much like Brian is doing now. I listened to your show throughout the week both jobs lasted, and it has made the task go by much faster. I'm now up to episode 31, in which you discuss methods of storing and organizing collections. The comics used to be in the laundry room, and now they occupy my den. Unfortunately, 9 long boxes don't fit very well, so I had to finally start the task of sorting through them to see what I want to keep, what I can swap out for trades, and what I want to sell. Incidentally, I have Speedball 1 through 10 if anyone is interested.
Yay!
Now to the question. My comics have held up pretty well over the years. Naturally, the comics that use the old newsprint paper have not held up as well. Do you have any advice for maintaining these comics short of buying Mylar bags for all of them? I've heard that rebagging the comics every 5 to 10 years will help them last. I'm wondering about your take on the issue. Keep up the good work, and thank you for the effort you put forth every week.
Definitely rebagging and boarding. Keep them in dry, cool place.
Yeah, I was wondering if the laundry room if it's in the basement. That I don't know if it's in the basement or not, but if it is, that could be dangerous because of the humidity. But
I have strategically placed the dehumidifier in our basement right in front of the comic room, so it sucks all the moist air out of the comic room and shoots the hot air out into the rec room.
yeah, I don't rebag and board. It's enough for me to spend the money to do it once. I'm not about to go buy 4,000 bags and boards and redo it. I mean,
I'd like to at some point, but I'm not anytime soon.
I've been in that. I've just for the past 3 years maybe started to rebag and reboard because what happens, especially those bags in the 80s, they stick
get
together.
All foggy and stuff.
Yeah, they get yellow. They stick together. And what's funny is like you pull out a comic and along the top of it, along the backing board, along the top of where the comic is, it actually browns. Yeah. It's where the acid from the paper is coming out onto the backing board, and where the flap of the bag is. That's where the air is coming in. So I've been rebagging and reboarding, and I think that definitely does make a difference. If you can do it and you want to do it, I think it's a good investment. And if you have any of those, I have like the thicker backing boards they used to have back in the 80s, but used to have the cardboard on the back, like it was the brown on the back but white on the front. Like get rid of those. Right now, just run to your collection and tear those suckers out because those were so acidic and just not good for your books. And for me, it's just,
And if they want to buy a whole mess of bags and boards, they can get them from the twobuds.com.
Twobuds.com.
Yeah.
There's another.
There's a
pricing.
Bags Unlimited, I think, is another
Also,
one.
Impulse Creations, I think, is
Impulse
another
Creations.
one. Yeah, where you get some bulk bags and boards. I use Ultra Pro. I know some people. I don't
Those
go.
are really nice.
Yeah, I don't do the Mylar. I
don't
the
either.
poly, whatever it is, Thylene or whatever.
Like 3 mil. I like 3 mil or 5
Yeah.
mil, something like that. There's a thinner one that I don't like.
Yeah. Mylar. I don't have anything in my collection I need to stick in that thick of a bag, but that's all I can think of. And I know some people don't tape, right? Some people don't tape their stuff. They just flip.
I don't know. I
flip
tape
the
everything.
Bag, the flap in.
I'm a taper.
I think I just got lazy with it. It
Yeah.
wasn't really any, conscious choice. It was just, I'll do it
But once you
later,
hit 50
and I never
million,
did.
it gets a little old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some bags I tried that I thought were an interesting and innovative thing was where it had self-sealing flap on the back, and I thought this is great. You can't. And I bought a bunch of them, but I don't know. It gets to be a pain in the wazoo when you're bagging your books because you gotta peel the protective strip off, and then you put your book in, and then put the flap over, and it seals the whole flap rather than just at one point. But I wasn't that impressed. I thought it was a great idea, saved on buying tape and having to do all that, and not having to worry that if you pull it open, they'll rip the tape and you got to retape it. But I found it's
That's
more
why you
cumbersome
buy
than anything else.
The green Scotch tape.
That's right.
Yeah.
Green Scotch tape.
That's the
But I've
only
had-
stuff that I buy.
Same here.
Nothing else touches my bags.
I've had that
Yep.
same experience though that you did, Pete, with a lot of my Silver Age stuff that I bought back in the '80s, and and those bags and boards were in it. And I've noticed I've gone back and rebagged and boarded them because the bags have yellowed and the backing board has discolored.
I pull some of those out, and the back ad on the back cover is actually imprinted onto the board in a
Oh,
weird
really?
way.
I've never had that.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa.
Wow.
Like, the yellowing is just outlining certain words and images, and I'm like, holy hell. So,
I've
yeah.
had that come through on like a white cover. The reverse of the white cover comes through a little
Yeah.
bit, but I've never had.
You double tape your...
Yeah, I put two pieces.
Do you single tape or double tape?
I single tape because
See,
I'm
I
cheap.
single tape, too.
I single tape.
Because double tape, it's like always like, oh, I gotta do double. You know, I hate going through the back issues of like a store and they got... I'm like, get the second tape out of here. I just need
No,
one.
because whenever I would single tape and put it in, it would curl up the corners. So I always
You
double
just
tape.
gotta-
Not if you put
No,
your
double
things
tape.
all nice next to each other. And
Not
tight.
double tape, because I agree. I always hated that at the store when I was working there because you always had the guys that were lazy enough and they didn't want to put two pieces of tape on. And then, when you're looking at it, especially in a store situation,
Right.
it just looks bad to see corners rolling up. So I just got used to double taping, and now
In
when
a
I do
store
mine, I double
situation,
tape it.
but for home use, I mean, I'm the only one going through my boxes, and I make sure the corners are tucked down so they're nice and flat, and then they don't stick up.
I also do my tape backwards from what most people do. I do it sideways.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
I
can't
don't do
that.
sideways.
I mean, the double tape too is like I remember pulling out a book and like
You
all
have
of a
to
sudden
be careful.
Yeah,
or-
like it stuck to the cover. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Only on Comic Geek Speak will we have a discussion about
Tape.
Tape.
but it
double tape,
has
triple
to
tape.
be Scotch green.
Yep,
I think
Scotch
it's
green
called
tape.
invisible,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And not the
Oh, yeah.
purple
Because that you
invisible
can take
satin.
on and
no.
off, on and off, on and off 5 times, and it doesn't stick to the bag
Yep.
and mutilate the
Exactly.
whole thing. Like some of those old bags with the old crappy tape, it's like it's permanently bonded to the bag, and you have to you end up ripping the plastic before the tape comes, and you have to get a new bag and the whole bit.
The other thing too about rebagging and reboarding is when you do it, like
They
when
look
you,
so nice.
oh my god, yeah, you get like 100 in a row. It's like, look at my pretty collection. It's so I love it. I love it.
But now I got that feeling because I started with that. I was very, very new into my
Yeah.
collection when I had started all of them, and I always had it like
You
that.
guys laughing at that.
Okay, and now we
Loser
know.
Explosion in my pants. Oh.
It is true though, because if you buy a bunch of books from shows and stores and they're all different,
Oh, totally
and then you
rebag
replace
those.
them and they're all nice and the same, and you have a complete run, so it's never going to get touched, and they just match forever. That does feel good.
It does look nice. I don't disagree with you. It's just that I don't get that emotional
feels
over it.
so good.
One thing though, about like rebagging and reboarding, when I noticed that with my Silver Age stuff that I bought and rebagged and boarded, that my theory was that with the older stuff, the Silver Age books or older or even into the Bronze Age, that I'm wondering that it's almost better that they breathe at some point because of the fact of the high aesthetic levels that they had before they were aware of collecting and bagging and boarding books. And I think that's why you get that browning and discoloring and the imprinting on the things, because the acid is so high, and by trapping it in there is actually detrimental to the book. I mean, it's just a theory, it's a hypothesis that I have as far as with some of these books, because I've noticed it in my own thing, and I'm kind of wondering that, a lot of the Silver Age books, there was no such thing. They all survived Golden Age and Silver Age books without bags. So, I mean, but they've had that chance to breathe and allow that acid level, that smell you get when you open up the thing, to dissipate, whereas when you have it sealed in a bag, it's trapped in there.
With the grading, that grading site, which I'm not, by any means, I'm not saying that you should go get your books graded, but they put a sheet of something between
almost
the
like
cover
tissue paper, but
Yeah.
not. I don't.
and it that's supposed to help absorb the impurities or whatever. So I don't know if that's an idea to do if you have like older books.
You'd have to research what kind of
I
paper.
take mine to the town mystic, and he just magically,
He whammies them.
takes all that stuff right out of there. Yeah, he rubs some crystals over it or something.
I'm the nut in the room that puts their trades in the bags, right? I'm the only one here that trades.
Yeah,
in
you're
I'm
nutty
never
about
gonna
that.
do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I got to do that.
Yeah, you lent me that magazine, and it came in a bag. I'm
Well,
like,
some magazines I do. I've bought magazine bags, and I've put some.
Well,
some stuff in
magazines
that.
I'll do,
Yeah.
like some of the old magazines. Like I bought a lot of the old Marvel magazines
no,
and stuff like it, but
not a comic.
It was
book.
comicology. It was,
Oh,
Yeah,
like
it's a
okay.
magazine about
all my
comics.
back
Yeah.
issues are in, and all my
Yeah.
alter egos they're in bags. They
Nah,
have
but not the
magazine
trades or
bags,
anything.
Yeah.
My wizards are in bags.
No.
Oh, come on!
No, they have a nice square bound. You line them all up. You got.
Yeah, they look
Now
nice
they're going
on
to
the shelf.
deteriorate, man.
The
Your
power
trades, your trades.
Who
are
cares?
gonna
Wizard Man,
discolor.
you're supposed to look through for facts and destroy and
Wait
read
in
through.
10 years, your trades are going to be different colors than my trades.
You know,
My
as soon as
Watchman
you
was.
actually get a real job and you have a house, you're going to
Yeah.
have like the hermetically sealed room with like the time lock on it and the dust
I've always
collector
wanted
thing.
that.
Environment
Harlan
control.
Ellison
Oh yeah,
has.
the halon spray will come down in case there's a fire. You know?
He has like the beekeeper outfit where he goes in with like the thing and turns the pages with the tweezers. And
First, you're gonna have to go through a certain room that like completely vaporizes all your
It
germs.
removes the outer layer of
Yeah.
skin off of your body so that you're.
I actually, when I've read some comics and stuff, my hands, even though, I actually wash my hands before I read comics. A lot of times, like, sometimes I get thumbprints and stuff in there. I actually got rubber gloves, like, to try to read
my
some of them.
God.
Yeah. Wow. I've gotten a little funky about that.
now you say you got the rubber gloves to read the comics.
Yes, to read the comics.
Yeah, I was
So
reading
that my
some-
imprints don't, I got fingerprints on some of these darker pages.
Well, just reading some old Moon Knights last night that haven't been stored all that well. I swear, like you could feel the moisture just being sucked right out of your fingers.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I always wanted to get some kind of like
gloves.
funky. No, I would. I have some kind of cool door for a hermetically sealed room, so it doesn't look like a room. You hit a button and the whole panel slides out.
Like a
You can
panic
hear
room.
the seal go as you walk in.
Holy
Yeah,
crap.
that'll be Shane's panic room. You're right, Mike.
Yeah. My panic room. The hell with food. I want my comics in there.
He will go down with his comic room.
I've got plenty of room for the kids, the wife, but I gotta have my comics. Food, that's optional.
I think the seal's already broken. It's not on the comic room.
All right, what's our main topic of the discussion for this episode?
Well, it was something we put off from last episode, and then a listener actually emailed us about what we thought about new universe titles, and we're also going to throw in there Marvel's 2099.
The what?
Marvel's 2099.
No, I know.
So, who wants to? Anybody want to kick off why New Universe came about? What it was about? Anybody?
It was
have-
Jim Shooter's idea, right?
Yeah.
25th anniversary or 30th anniversary?
1986 would be 25, right?
Yeah, 25th anniversary, and he wanted to create a new universe, so he did.
What's funny is that it gets such a bad flack, yet he's doing basically what CrossGen is about. Like developing a line that is its own continuity and its own stories, different from the Marvel universe, new characters and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it didn't work. Lateness, and there were some other, I'm sure there were some ego problems, and then Jim Shooter left probably halfway, right? Didn't he leave Marvel halfway through all that? And
Actually, I think he was asked to leave.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
It was a combination kind of thing.
Yeah, but I can remember when it was solicited that everybody was like, "Whoa, what's this?" There was an interest. I mean, it initially there was definitely interest. It wasn't like everybody was panning it right from the get go.
And it wasn't like it was all new talent on these books either.
Right.
I mean, they brought in, renowned artists and writers to contribute to these. I don't know how much of a collaboration process or how much creative process they had involved in the books they were on, but it wasn't just something they threw together with, rookies and.
I wonder if it was like his answer to what DC was doing, because at the time DC was doing Crisis, and everybody knew whatever was going to come out of the Crisis, whatever they were going to, it was going to be something new. Like nobody, maybe they didn't know if they were going to restart their universe or whatever. So he's like, you know what, we need to come up with this because maybe this will also attract new readers because it's a whole new story. It's funny enough, it's almost like Ultimates. A whole new continuity, a whole new, even though they're not using established characters.
Right. That's the difference. That's the only real difference, really.
Yeah.
Is that they're not using the established Marvel Universe.
Right.
Which I thought was a fresh idea because I was actually looking forward to that. To see, because, you're starting out like in the Silver Age, 25 years ago, with new characters, new directions, new innovations towards the whole industry. So it was kind of interesting to see.
It had a uniform look on the covers.
Right.
Which kind of made it special in its own little thing.
There were some positives out of it. I mean, it didn't do well. I mean, bottom line, it didn't last. But
So what were the titles? You guys were listing them, just not
we were
before the
listening
show.
to this Kickers Inc.
DP7.
and Night Mask and Starbrand, and Spitfire and the Troubleshooters,
Justice.
and what?
Cyforce.
Cyforce, yeah. I think that was it.
There were 8, right? Is that all 8?
Merc
Merc.
and Justice.
Right.
So
Out of all of them, I think Starbrand probably was the highest profile one.
I read that one in
Yeah.
DP7, I think.
Starbrand was John Romita Jr. artwork, very nice.
absolutely, very nice artwork.
Yeah, and then who was writing? Was that Jim Shooter? Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Jim Shooter
writing that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he started it out. And then Byrne took over later on and like really added into the whole background of the power and really went bananas with it.
The original story was this guy Ken Connell who discovered it. It's basically Green Lantern.
Or
I mean,
in a way, yeah.
And a little bit Rising Stars, maybe.
No, that was
Rising
more
Stars
DP's.
is more of a. Rising Stars is more like a general.
I thought you were talking about
like,
the whole universe,
No.
not just Star Brand.
No.
Well, I could see your reference to the whole universe, but not to that one book particularly. But yeah, Starbrand was kind of like a Green Lantern kind of origin. He met an alien who gave him the Star Brand, and he got the powers. But the interesting thing that I liked about it is that, unlike Green Lantern, where you had sort of an established hero with Hal Jordan being the test pilot and fearless and all that stuff, Ken Connell was not that character. It was a whole learning process with him. It was very realistic, I thought, more so than like science fiction kind of thing.
Yeah, like one of the neat things in it when he was always trying to test out his powers when he was flying, he would get too far up into the atmosphere that when he came back down, he was in a different part of Pennsylvania.
Right.
And the world spun underneath
Yeah,
him.
and then he would go even higher, and he goes, "Oh, okay, there's the Mississippi. All right, let me follow that up to get to And then when he came down, missed my mark, and he had to shoot over to Pittsburgh, which was his hometown. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and in fact, other characters then utilized that. Like later on in Iron Man, he used to do that. He started taking him when he had the Silver Centurion armor. He would go up into the atmosphere and deliberately do that to let the Earth rotate and then come back down, so he didn't have to fly all the way across country when he was doing West Coast Avengers and stuff. So
there was another scene where he was fighting some guy and they wound up in outer space, or I think he was fighting the alien or something like that. And he was like, "Oh my God, where's the Earth?" He didn't see it. So the brightest star nearest to him, he said, "Well, that's got to be the sun." So he distanced himself to a certain point where he was like, "All right, that's kind of what it looks like from Earth. Let me swing around." And he kind of like followed the orbit and eventually ran into Earth. So that was kind of...
That's the difference that I liked about it. It was a different take on it. And the alien turned out wasn't, like Ivan Sur, where he was a good guy passing on these powers. It was an interesting twist. I don't want to give too much away because I think, it would be...
because these are readily available in 25-cent boxes.
Starbrand's 19 issues, you can find the entire run in a 50-cent box.
And they're good reads. And the art, John Romita was at his prime. I should say at his prime, but he was really coming into his storytelling ability and his art style.
Did he do all the issues of that?
No. He drew like 2/3 of it.
Yeah,
when Byrne took it over, he did drawing and art.
Oh, okay.
Plus there were some fill-ins before that, too. Yeah.
But that was like the nucleus of the universe. That book was like the nucleus of the universe, which eventually led into the whole thing that, the pit and all that stuff. So
I thought the pit started at first with a one-shot.
No. The pit was a culmination of everything that transpired in the new universe.
Because that's how I got into it. I collected G.I. Joe at the time, and their base was called the Pit. And there's this thing with the cover on that says the Pit, and I'm thinking, oh, Marvel, there's got to be something about G.I. Joe. And I picked it up, and I'm thinking, well, maybe not, but I'll get it. And that's how I started reading it, because then I went and found out what it was about. But I always thought that was first, just my memory faltering.
What about, what was the one that Peter David wrote? He wrote 2, but what was the one he started writing?
Merc was the one he started out on, but that only lasted 6 issues, maybe? Maybe it went a full 12, but I don't think so.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones to go.
And then he took over Justice from, I think, was it Archie Goodwin? He might have started writing that, and then it was one of those, Peter David came on and everything about the title was wrong kind of thing, where he came on and really just tweaked the character and made it something different, and it actually really kind of got good once he took it over.
What was the basic premise of Justice?
At first he was like a warrior from another dimension, and he had like 2 powers. One hand could shoot like a force blast, and the other hand he could produce like energy shields. So that was kind of it. And then he was fighting all kinds of weird... he was fighting like drug dealers and stuff at first, and then...
that lasted 32 issues, Justice.
Yeah?
I have the last issue here.
I'm just looking at
there weren't too many.
This is number 32 in a 32-issue limited series. I mean, how limited is 32?
Well, because when they were canceling the
That was
line,
at
I
the
guess
end,
they didn't
yeah.
want it to seem like they were like even Starbrand, it was really late there for a while, like a couple months at the end, and then it went 19 in a 19-issue limited series.
That's really cheesy.
I guess to make it kind of collectible or whatever.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, to make it seem like it was
Hey, this
something they
is-
planned.
This is Fabian doing this Cyforce.
Fate, really?
Yeah.
Who's the artist on that?
Rodney Ramos. So did
Oh,
they
I remember
ever,
that?
after the whole thing was said and done, did they end up fusing any of these characters at all into the regular Marvel universe?
The only thing they ever did, after they did this thing called the draft, where there was this threat from the paranormals. So basically the U.S. government made all the paranormals register, and they had this draft, and they made some of them go into the army and to use them as weapons against other countries and other paranormals. And eventually that led into, after all the series ended, I think Cyforce, DP7, Justice, and Starbrand were the only ones that really lasted a while. Then they did a miniseries called The War, which was all about I think it was either Central American or South American country had a paranormal who was threatening to sort of blow up the United States, so the United States sent this team of paranormals that they had down to take this guy out. And it wasn't bad. I think Doug Murray wrote it, who wrote the Nam comic. And it was pretty decent, but that kind of wrapped it up as far as Marvel publishing any new universe titles. But then years later, Mark Grunwald, who wrote all of DP7 when he was writing Quasar, decided to have a little fun with Quasar getting basically blown into the new universe, and he got to meet a bunch of the characters from DP7 and a few of the other titles, like Starbrand. But as far as I know, that was pretty much the last time anybody's seen them, so that was like early 90s.
So they should put Kevin Smith on New Universe and have him
Sell like
rejuvenate it.
hotcakes.
Well, listen to this credit box for Cyforce #1. Writer, Steve Perry, who knew he could sing and write comics.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Penciler, Mark Texiera. Inker, Kyle Baker.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then so on and so forth. Spitfire was a woman, I don't know if she was like an army brat or something like that, and she had an Iron Man suit, for lack of a better description, this suit that she controlled, and there was some, she had her crew that took care of the suit. Night Mask was some trippy, there it is. He was in dreams, like you could go into your dreams.
Yeah,
He was like a
something.
fortune teller kind of thing.
There was an explosion, and he had this crescent-shaped scar on his head after the explosion. He realized after the event that he could now enter people's dreams. But that was a series that only lasted, I think, 12 issues. Although he did pop up again with the draft. The army used him as sort of the psychologist. Like, he'd go into the paranormal's heads to see if they were fit for duty, basically. So it was interesting.
Didn't Night Mask come back into the Marvel universe? Like, he was guest starred in like Sleepwalker or something like that had to do with the nightmare thing. I could have sworn I remember seeing that was kind of they kind of advertised it, so to speak, that this character from the new universe was actually coming into the Marvel universe, which was feasible for that type of character.
Yeah, that actually, I don't think I ever heard that or knew that, so I'll have to look.
The other interesting thing was, I don't know where, I think I read it in one of the official handbooks on the Beyonder, or I read it in an interview or something like that, that at the end of Secret Wars, the whole thing about the Beyonder was, and this is not giving any great stories because, those issues aren't, phenomenal. Secret Wars 2 certainly is not up there on my reading list.
Don't give anything away from Secret Wars because I'm only on issue 9.
No, it's not. It's not. The Beyonder was discovered. It was later found out that he wasn't really a Beyonder. He was a cosmic cube that gained like sentience or something like that. So when he, it was something like when they rallied around him in Secret Wars 2 to get rid of him, the energy that was displaced from him being, defeated or whatever, is actually the reason why New Universe was created. Like, did you ever read that? Like it's something like, I think I'm mixing some facts, but if you look in the official handbook, the character of the Beyonder has something to do with the and this was all like hindsight. They threw this in after the fact. He created basically the New Universe, and that's where, that's why you get that lightning bolt symbol, and it was, the whole idea was that it really was a part of the Marvel Universe, just an alternate reality, and that's why they can, and that's why they can cross over and stuff like that. So I thought that was like a neat fact.
Didn't actually the Molecule Man and Beyonder merge to form that cube?
I forget.
I think there was some. No, I think it was in some one-shot Fantastic Four called Secret Wars 3, where that's how it.
I don't know.
It was just that one shot where, and that's how it ended. It was forgettable. That's pretty much what I'm driving at.
I couldn't tell you, but wherever that fact is, I'll have to look for it. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, oh, that's kind of giving almost like credibility to the New Universe, even though it eventually tanked.
I thought it was an interesting premise. Like I said, I followed Starbrand and DP7. I'm sure I don't have any of the issues anymore. And
well, the interesting thing is that Jim Shooter got a lot of flack for that section of the Marvel Universe for some reason. Like, I know there's a lot of horror stories about Jim Shooter, and whether they're true or not, which I'm sure they are, but then, you also got to look at what he's did for Marvel when he was editor-in-chief. But it was like, there were a lot of creators who were very much against the New Universe line because they felt it was his ego more than anything putting out this line. It's like, well, why is it ego? Why is it not just marketing? I don't know. I don't know the full story.
I don't either, but I know a lot of that stuff happened when Shooter was in editor-in-chief of Marvel, and a lot of times people have misrepresented him and his role. Granted, he was, I don't want to say stern, but he stood by what he put out there. But and a lot of things he did was not just for Marvel's good, but for the creators themselves. He started a lot of stuff that giving them insurance, and royalties, and really established the creators actually getting more than just a paycheck. And also a lot of the books that you actually see a resurgence now of those characters are stuff that he put into motion. He put a lot of new characters out there. He was always trying to step outside the box with things. And when you read more into it, and you read interviews or read articles about him and the things he's done, you have a whole different viewpoint of who Shooter was.
Plus, especially he was up against Marvel in itself. I mean, he was the middleman. He was basically where Joe Quesada is. You got to deal with the creators and the business side of it, and he was dealing with. What I find interesting is that when he left or was asked to leave, it didn't take much longer for Marvel almost to be bankrupt.
Exactly.
So, I know you can probably say, well, he was the start of it, but they certainly didn't find that next thing that kept him afloat. So.
When did he leave?
Wow.
Yes, they're saying 86, right? 86, 87?
Around there, yeah. I'm thinking.
It's later 80s, mid to late 80s.
And who was right after him?
Tom DeFalco.
DeFalco, and then it was Bob Harris, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Bob Harris is where it really fell to pieces.
Yeah, that was the 90s, the mid-90s.
Right.
But yeah, Shooter, and that's the thing. Shooter was up against, and the thing was, he stood up against the execs and really pushed the boundaries, not only for the industry, but for the creators themselves, and also for the books. So, I mean, he did a lot. He did more so than you think that a lot of the other editor-in-chiefs ever did in their position.
And he was EIC for how many years?
A long time.
Yeah, like
a long time.
In the 70s, he took over, and then until 86, 87.
Right.
So
you got giving the man credit for what he's
was Archie Goodwin in there after he was there, or was Archie Goodwin before? I was just trying to put Archie Goodwin in.
I think he was before, because then they gave him the Epic line to.
Well, I thought the Epic line was actually during the whole New Universe thing. That's where he was.
Well, yeah, because that's where it was like Marvel Fanfare. Archie Goodwin was.
Yeah. And I thought maybe after he left, Goodwin stepped in. It doesn't really matter
right.
For our overall conversation, but just in my brain, I was just trying to
Yeah.
put when he was editor-in-chief also.
I thought they gave Archie. I think I remember reading somewhere that they gave him Epic because of something that happened. Like they gave him that.
Well, he
line.
was
I
like
don't
he
know
was
about
like a writer and was doing whole kinds of stuff with the Epic line. And I
Mhm.
guess they just gave that to him. He was just the editor because he was doing stuff with that.
it. Right. So,
Anyway,
want to move over to
What's
go
the
ahead.
deal here? I'm looking at the cover to Star Brand number 12, and the X-Men are on it.
It's because they're at a comic
They're at a
book
comic
convention.
Oh, okay.
It was a way to get the X-Men in, I guess. So then we have Marvel 2099, which was this
It's another new universe.
another new, but actually it was the Marvel universe in the they just
Right,
ate,
yeah.
100 years into the
100
future.
years? Or I thought it was
Something like
100.
that. But when did Marvel 2099 come out? Do you have some of those
Early-
issues around, John?
Early 90s, 93.
John's gonna get. He brought a whole bunch of stuff. He's like our resident librarian. He has like a slew. Any title you want, John's got it. I bet. In that
Part of
stacks.
Didn't the podcast hire him out to be the
Yeah.
research guy?
The archives.
the curator.
Yeah.
But I believe it was like 1999. It was a deliberate intent to make it 100 years in the future.
No, it came out
No,
earlier.
it came
than
out
99.
much earlier than that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Was
Yeah,
it
92.
92?
Yeah, I was working at the store when it was coming out.
And the four main. It was Spider-Man 2099,
Doom 2099.
X-Men, and Ravage.
and Ravage 29, which was
I
by
liked-
Stan Lee.
Well, didn't Hulk 2099 and Punisher 2099?
Came out later, I think.
Oh, okay, so the original four. You're talking about.
No, X-Men was not one of the original four.
Oh, it wasn't one of the, So
Nope.
maybe it was Punisher.
It was
the other
Punisher,
four,
Doom, Ravage, and
I
Spider-Man.
don't even
Spider-Man.
remember Punisher.
Yeah.
Punisher 29. Yeah, I remember.
yeah. There was a Hulk.
92.
Wasn't there a Ghost Rider 2099?
Yes,
Yeah,
there was.
yeah.
That came out later.
And that came out. Yeah, most of
Because
it
he was
came out
established
later.
in the one story and got some attention, so they actually created a book.
So I
for
think
him.
there was a 2099 Unlimited book or something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where
it
you got
was
the Hulk.
right.
Yeah.
I followed Doom 2999 more faithful than the others.
Right.
For the first 17, 18 issues, I really liked that. I don't know how much it went
Spider-Man
for.
was the best one, though.
Well, and that
Peter
was
David.
Peter David and
And-
Rick Leonardi.
Yep.
Rick Leonardi's artwork.
Great
was gorgeous.
combination there. I mean, you had a great storytelling and great artwork. I thought that was the strongest book out of them all.
And I think that's the highest selling Peter David book ever. I think he said it broke the million mark for him.
That's why when I heard that he was getting his own Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man title, I was really excited because it's a character I think he could write very well, and now he's getting a chance to do it in his own book.
And Al Williamson was doing inking.
Yeah.
So it was really a good team.
Hence
So
the reason why that title lasted the longest out of all of them.
And the whole premise behind it, like we said, is it all takes place in the future, and like the X-Men 2099, they were still living off the legacy of Charles Xavier and Punisher. I have no idea. Ravage was like this whole ecological kind of
He's a
book.
garbage man.
Is
Garbage.
is
Good
Doom
old Stan Lee
2099,
thing.
if I'm remembering correctly, is Doom 2099 tied in with Christoph?
Oh, that I don't know. I don't think.
I don't think they ever came out.
Was it
and
really Doom, or they just
said-
never
Well,
said?
that was the thing. They were always kind of
Ambiguous.
playing around with it
Yeah.
and saying, "Oh, it might be," and then you kind of got the idea. I think during Warren Ellis's run, that it wasn't actually Victor Von Doom. It was
But he
somebody
didn't.
else.
But I think he didn't really know or why he got there.
Yeah.
Like he woke up and like had amnesia, I guess.
They might have addressed that in the sort of the last-ditch effort for the 2099 when they combined everything into one book and it was just called 2099 World of Tomorrow. They might have answered the question there, but I haven't read all those, so I don't know.
Is that after he took control of the U.S.?
Yeah.
So I have X-Men 2099 in front of me, number one, and they all came out with this like funky
Yeah.
border cover. Tom DeFalco was editor-in-chief at the time.
That Spider-Man 2099 cover I thought was really cool.
This is
it is
1993, that X-Men 29. John Francis Moore is the writer. Ron Lim is the penciler. Adam Kubert is the inker. Tom Smith, colorist.
See, on Doom, John Francis Moore is the writer. Pat Broderick is the artist.
I like Brett Broderick.
John Costanza is the letterer.
Can't stand you.
Can't stand you.
When they even had a Moon Knight 2099
Get out of here.
and Manifest Destiny.
Yeah.
You know, this
It was,
character right
yeah.
here in Doom is Tiger Wild. And when I first looked at the picture, I thought, oh, Tiger something. I would never remember that in any kind of trivia something.
Especially in that, was it the Unlimited title? It was like an annual kind of thing or a giant-sized book. Is where you got the Hulk and all that stuff. They started bringing other characters in, like there was a Daredevil 2099, and they started bringing more.
Well, and Captain America came back too. after being in suspended animation.
Yeah, Captain America came back in Warren Ellis's Doom run, except he was a kind of crazed drug addict.
What was the funny thing? I thought the only real connecting thing, it's kind of surfacey, but was the whole there was a Church of Thor. Wasn't like Thor had his thing.
Originally.
Right, because he was like supposed to. They were all awaiting the return of Thor. And it was like this whole.
See, that's a
crisis
cool
thing.
concept.
Yeah.
You know, like
But then a lot of them switched over to worship Spider-Man, if I remember correctly.
Are you serious? Like, later,
Yeah.
is that what the Manifest
Wasn't-
Destiny is
No,
about?
no, that was years. That was
Fall
before
of the Hammer? That story?
I can't remember. I just remember like something happened where they saw Spider-Man, and next scene there was a couple issues later. The entire cover, everyone had the Spider-Man costume, and it pretty much
Oh,
just spun
jeez.
off into that was the new religion then.
Didn't maybe when I was looking at that you mentioned, but didn't the X-Men have followers too like that, where they turned it into a religion, where they were worshiping Professor
yeah,
X's
I think,
teachings?
later on in the title, I think they established almost like a whole mutant city.
Church of X or something? Or,
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't know, but it's funny because I'm looking at the last page of the Spider-Man 2099 number 1 where you have the subscription page, and
Yeah.
some of the titles that they have, I can't even believe I was working in a comic store at the time because I just don't even like. I mean, some of these titles, like I don't remember there being a Hell's Angel book. What the hell is
Marvel
that?
UK.
Marvel UK, yeah.
Death's Head.
Oh, and
Motormouth.
Warheads,
Gary Frank.
Terror Inc.,
Gary Frank was on the line.
Gary Frank and
Alan Davis do some
Darkhold.
Yeah.
What the hell was Darkhold?
That was,
that was Midnight Suns.
Midnight,
Yeah.
That was
Dr.
one of
Strange.
those?
That was the
whole
book.
Ghost Riders.
The
Midnight
book,
Suns.
The Darkhold.
Yeah.
God, and then there were books like Barbie and Barbie Fashion.
Well, that was, and then like
I
Marvel.
got full runs of those.
Which was
Part of the Darkhold. And Cage. Did Cage have
Oh
his
yeah,
own?
he had his
I don't
own.
remember
yeah.
that in
Oh, yeah.
1992.
Well, they had Marvel really. They
Did
went
you ever
and-
really actually work in the store, or did you just like sit outside? And
He
do
just ran the
nothing?
register.
They had Wrestling WCW.
Yep.
I don't remember that either.
Yep.
Marvel took all their whole line and they divided it. So like the X-Men was in their own universe, the Avengers was in their universe. This, like you said, the Midnight Suns.
Well, I remember the
was
whole
all in
Midnight Suns
there.
thing. I just don't remember
It
Darkhold.
was Darkhold and Night Stalkers,
Morbius.
and Morbius, and Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider
Spirits of
Blaze,
Vengeance.
Spirits of Vengeance.
Yep.
Oh, look, here it is. Yeah, Moon Knight.
Yeah, the female.
This is Mike McCone artwork on this 2099
And Fish
Manifest
Police. They have.
Destiny.
When did that be? Wasn't that what
That's like
company
part of their
was
kids. Part of their kids.
the Fish Police?
Yeah. Yeah. They,
When that was originally published, that was some
No,
independent
that was
thing,
independent.
right?
Yeah.
Was it Comico?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought, wasn't it?
I think it was.
I think it was their own.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Where
you're
it's
right.
a
It was
private
their own.
thing,
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
involved
But that
in
was the Fish Police. That was, I think, when they did the
cartoon.
cartoon for a little bit,
Yeah.
and they picked that up.
What's all? I mean,
So a lot of these stories they went up to like into the 30s. You know, Spider-Man went up into the 30s.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a short run. I mean, this
2
was
or 3 years.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And this is another series, imprint, whatever you want to call it, line that you can find in 25-cent bins, I'm
Mhm.
sure.
yeah, the Spider-Man one, the first. Well, when did Peter David start? It was like 20 issues or so that he wrote,
Yeah, I
right?
think he wrote it for almost 2 years, and then I don't remember the exact issue.
Because
but
I stopped reading it as soon as Peter David was done. So
I kept going because then, well, especially, I kept reading it because I got into the characters, you know, the Miguel O'Hara, and so I kept buying it. But for the, I have to say for the fanboys or something, if they want to get it, because that's when they started bringing in like, you know, Venom and you know things like that. You know, I guess they realized that the sales were starting to tank a little bit, so they started bringing characters that were at that time really selling and had a big draw. And Venom was one of that, and so they brought that in. I think it was the Green Goblin, you know. So they started bringing characters like that, and for adversaries to kind of spice it up to kind of increase sales after.
speaking of Jim Shooter, you know, he created the whole black costume thing, right? I mean, he wrote the story that it was in. I don't know if it was his idea or not, but
I followed Doom 2099 until they had a storyline where it was like 2 or 3 issues, maybe more, where he was totally engulfed in a computer and he was like surfing on digitized waves or something like that. It was really, really hokey, I thought. And
Yeah, there are
gave up
two really weird sort of like throwaway issues there in the Doom 2099, like the first year or so's worth, that I don't know if they just fell behind and they had to
Yeah.
throw something together real quick, but they're just,
To
you
make
know,
no
don't have
sense.
any connection to the story that was going on beforehand, and they're just really lousy overall reads.
Wasn't that kind of the premise of Ghost Rider 2099, that he was kind of like this cybernetic kind of
Yeah, I think
Ghost in the
so.
Machine kind
Those
of thing.
were Chris Pacello issues, the first few.
Yeah, that he could
Yeah.
like in you know.
Well, this oh Jesus!
I think
Sorry.
actually those Ghost Rider 2099 issues might have been the first mainstream stuff that he did after leaving Shade.
Could be, that
I
was-
think
yeah.
so, because that's the time frame is right, and I loved Shade, and I was so pissed when he left, and then I was like, to do Ghost Rider 2099, I was stunned. It was, if it's not, it was very close.
This 2099 AD Genesis #1 has Warren Ellis as a writer, but it has Dale Eaglesham as artist, who is currently on. Well, he was on Hero, Dial H, the new Hero from DC, which got a lot of
Did
critical
some
acclaim.
Green Lantern before the reboot.
Yeah, and he's also on Villains United, I think, right now too. I know they have a fill-in artist in one of the issues, but
Well, one to ask, with some of the titles like Doom and Spider-Man, when their series ended, did they really have some kind of conclusion to them, or did they just pretty much, hey, this is gone, but pick up? I forget what the title was supposed to merge everything together, but
I think they all kind of just merged into the 2099 World of Tomorrow, which I believe Joe Kelly wrote all the issues of that. And Pascal Ferry did some of the artwork in that too. But I think when they realized that was going to tank, it ended, and then I don't know. I think it was actually years later that they brought Len Kaminsky and Mike McKone on to do this one shot called 2099 Manifest Destiny, that they sort of let them come on and wrap up the whole 2099 story, the whole universe and everything, and they did a really good job with it too.
here's the funny thing: in Spider-Man 2099, he has little talons on his fingertips.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a throat, like what they did in the movie then too, with the little hairs coming out on his fingertips
Well,
to
it's
crawl up
actually-
the wall.
also in there it was genetic as well.
Yeah, the organic web shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the big things when they did the movie, that Peter David said everybody was all up his ass about, we don't want organic web shooters, and then it was like, oh well, we like the organic web shooters now. I was like, damn it, I did this all these years ago and you were yelling at me.
Well, the funny thing is too, he brought back the Marvel 2099 Spider-Man in his Captain Marvel run, and there was like when he was like time hopping or dimension hopping or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a 6-issue storyline that he
Yeah.
was going back through time or going through time and ended up stopping over, and they did a whole storyline within the 2099 universe.
And the funny thing about that is, like, he also was told then, like, well, who cares about the Marvel 2099 universe? A year later, 2 years later, they put out Marvel Knights 2099 by Robert Kirkman, and he was like, well, wait a minute, like, you just told me a year ago I couldn't put these in my books, and now you're doing a whole line.
And how well did those sell?
Yeah, those aren't the best. It was like it was Black Panther, Inhumans, whatever
Punisher.
else, Punisher, Daredevil, and there was another one I can't remember.
Didn't read a one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I have to ask Kevin, because I know you always refer to the earlier stuff with Spider-Man and how with the clone stuff and Ben Reilly that really brought you back to what made you fall in love with the character. Spider-Man 2099, did that capture some of that? Because I remember just some of the first adventure where I forget who the villain was, but he was coming down, he's like, come out with some witty comment, something to say, and it was just hi, and then the thought bubble was, that wasn't it.
There were some aspects that you could recognize in the character that you could reflect as with Peter Parker, but I thought what kind of drew me into the character was that it wasn't a replica or a different manifestation of like a Peter Parker or Ben Reilly. That Miguel O'Hara was kind of cool with the work he was doing and how the whole story unfolded, but also he was kind of a bit more brutal. You know what I mean? So it wasn't such the being very tender with the powers and really, he used his powers, and I think they wanted to represent that in the universe to show that 100 years from now the world will be more brutal and, kind of that type of atmosphere. So, but I mean, he wasn't barbaric or anything like that, but he wasn't afraid. Like, he used his talons as a weapon, at times. So, I mean, it was things that you didn't expect or didn't get from the other Spider-Man books, but it didn't take away from the character at all. It wasn't something that was a representation of the actual universe. So, I enjoyed that. I thought that was kind of decent. It was a good take of a new rendition of an existing character. I didn't think it took away from anything. When you sit down and read the books, you don't sit there and try to think, is this like Peter Parker? Is this, it's like reading a Spider-Man book in the future. It's exactly what it is, and it's done pretty well.
That's the one thing I think they should trade out of this is the Peter David run, Spider-Man 2099.
And the Warren Ellis stuff, because his run on Doom was good. I kind of like John Francis Moore's stuff in the beginning of Doom 2099, but when Warren Ellis came on, he really took that book in new directions, and the writing was so much better. It was like such a breath of fresh air. And then I think the Marvel editors saw that and sort of let him plan this whole big event that they did with Doom taking over America. So that was probably the best. That and Spider-Man were the best.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's another one where you can go, if you go to a convention, you can probably find these in the 50-cent bin.
Quarter bins.
Yeah, $3 for $1.
Cool. So,
Yeah. All
that
right.
was our little discussion on...
I hope that answers everyone's questions about... I didn't realize, because I had stopped picking up 2099.
how far it went.
I didn't realize there were all these
Yeah,
specials
no,
and
me
all
either.
these things, and it's like I thought it just kind of stopped coming out, and all of a sudden, I mean, this one here says April of 1997. It's like 97.
Wow.
Like I mean, that,
No, I don't remember any
holy
of that.
mackerel! I thought it was gone long before that.
It just goes to show when there's a glut of a certain thing, you just can't keep track of it because it's like there's just too many of it.
Yeah.
I think had Marvel with these one shots they just did, had they set it in the actual original 2099 universe and used the original characters, it might have sold a little better. But when they sort of, from what I got out of it, they totally just took the concept and did all new characters. So sort of like, what's the point?
Right.
And I think that's traded. I think they traded that Marvel Knights 2099 somewhere. So if you really, if you want to get it, maybe try and see what Robert Kirkman was like. Because he tried his best. I mean, he probably was spread too thin on the book, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I know what I'm trying
I was
to
gonna
do
say
here.
I'm
Right.
sitting here waiting.
I forgot what I wanted to accomplish here. And I was going to end the episode, and I thought, wait a minute. I'm leaving out the best part.
Yeah, we gotta make Peter pay another $1 at least.
That's right. 2099.
Hey, I aced it 2 episodes ago. Yeah. 2 episodes. Well, that's because last episode was a trivia game. So.
What have you done for me lately?
All right, Paula.
Okay.
You can
Or
do like
Janet,
aerobics
sorry,
to that
Janet.
music. You know, you can get some good beats, step aerobics.
This one is from a person who calls himself Tedman. Says, hey guys, great work on the podcast. It really got me back into comics after about a 5-year break. I especially love your Geek Out discussions since they remind me of similar talks that me and my friends have. The most notable being the Star Wars universe versus the Star Trek universe. As in, if there were ever a galactic war between the two, who would win? Anyways, here are my questions for Stump the Rios. I'm not even touching that because you know what I think about your silly little Star Trek nonsense. Question number 1. Since the book of the month was Crisis on Infinite Earths, Jamie, I know you have a smart-ass comment brewing. But
It's there. It's sitting there, baby.
go.
Well, I mean, these first 3 episodes show how easy it was to kill Jedi Knights. So obviously, Star Trek's gonna kick their ass. That's all there is to it.
yeah, but not Luke Skywalker, baby. Since the book of the month was Crisis on Infinite Earths,
special episode coming.
I thought I would ask a crisis-themed Stump the Rios. Here's your first question. The Monitor died so that his energy would help fuel his machines that he placed on 5 different Earths. What did Kid Luthor and Harbinger do to his physical body after he died?
Just shot him out into the empty void of nothingness. Just
Okay, the answer is they shot it into outer space, a la Star Trek II, when they shot Spock's body into space inside a photon torpedo. Question number 2. Growing up as an Asian American, there weren't that many cool Asian comic book characters that didn't A, have a sword, B, have a rising sun as their logo, or C, look like Quick Kick.
Who's that?
G.I. Joe character.
In Crisis, what was Dr. Light's real name? First and last name, please.
Whoa. I think it's like Kimoyo. I don't remember. I don't know. I think her first name's something like Kimoyo, but I don't know the last name.
Answer: Kimiyo Hoshi.
Hoshi.
By the way, was I the only one who was surprised that Superman talked to Dr. Light in Japanese? I mean, between fighting Luthor and whatnot, when did he find the time to learn another language? Or is being able to speak different languages part of his Kryptonian powers? And thank God when characters like Jubilee and Grunge finally did come out. But can you really feel proud of a character named after a bad music scene? Well, didn't Superman learn that in the capsule
do
coming
you want
from
me to totally
Krypton?
geek? That's what it was.
He learned all the languages, every single
of Earth.
one. Yeah.
'Cause, Jor-El was good, but he didn't know exactly where he was going to put him.
Right.
So-
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and plus, they got the whole thing of being a higher society. They were way more advanced, and so for him to learn that kind of stuff was, just along the lines of everything else he knew.
What about Ebonics?
Damn straight.
I'm sure Superman could get down in the hood.
Well, remember in Superman 1 where... No, the one where he first gets his costume in that one.
His daddy comes out, yeah.
But I was always left in the... That's a bad outfit!
Woo!
All right. Here's your last question. Crisis was all about change and a whole lot of people dying. Who is the last survivor of Earth Prime?
Superboy.
That's correct. So, yeah, 2 out of 3, so you owe a quarter. Hope those Crisis questions weren't too obscure. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to the next podcast. Tedman from Los Angeles. All right.
So, just to wrap up our show, Kevin's going to do a quick little video segment on the Hulk game that he talked about before. He's played it and since beaten it. So,
Yes, and this will not be a half an hour thing. This is just the new improved video game segment. I got the game. It is, in one word, fun. It is just pure, all-out fun. There is nothing about this game that if you like about the Hulk or anything about the Hulk or ever enjoyed about the Hulk is in this game. Everything that you ever thought you could do or wanted to do.
Betty?
Yeah, you could do Betty. It's my best way to describe it is kind of an amalgamation of Grand Theft Auto mixed with the Spider-Man 2 movie game. It's along those themes of a game, whereas you have a free roaming universe for the Hulk. Along the lines of Spider-Man 2, the more you do things, the more points you rack up. You then buy added abilities, and you can increase your powers and increase the things you can do. Like, I shouldn't say increase your powers, it's more increasing the abilities with the powers, things you can do with the powers you already have. It's the storyline, that the graphics are phenomenal. The gameplay is good. You get a good play of the Hulk. It's almost like watching the movie when you see the scenes of the Hulk, of him doing the jumps and the landings and the mannerisms of that. But it also has a good influx of the comic mythology. You have the storyline involves General Ross and Doc Samson and Emil Blonsky, and so it's to me the weakest point of the game was the story. It wasn't that great. It was good. It was interesting to keep playing the game, but it didn't blow me away. But it was fun to do all the missions. And then the thing that is like the Spider-Man game as well is while you're going throughout, if you don't want to play the next mission, you can just go around and have fun. You can just go around and everything in the game is destructive. So I mean, you can knock down buildings, you can rip cars in half and toss them, and and just go have fun. And the thing that I like about it in reference to the Grand Theft Auto is it has a destruction meter. So the more you interfere with the humans and destroy things, they'll start sending cops after you. And then if you respond to that, then they'll start sending the military after you. And then you reach a certain level, well, they just send this all-out force. I mean, you're talking Apache helicopters and tanks and the whole 9 yards. And the difference is, though, with Grand Theft Auto, you had to find icons to reduce your wanted level. Whereas this is, when they send that ultimate force out to you, you got to defeat that force. And if you do, that's it. They call off the action against you. I mean, if you
call off the dogs,
yes,
the
so
Hulk
to speak.
dogs.
No, they weren't war dogs in there. But the graphics are great. Again, the sounding was wonderful. They do
Which
use
system did you get it for?
I got it for Xbox.
Okay.
My favorite system. All the environments are really excellent. They have the desert environments, so you had the military base and all that desert type environment that you had in the Hulk movie. But then you also have a city that you can go to, and you have all the mannerisms of the urban jungle kind of thing. And there's side missions that are not like Spider-Man, whereas you like run up to people and it's like, oh, help me. It's more like they're icons that you land on, and it's like racing missions where you see how fast you can go through a certain area in the city, or actually have some fun things where there's like a Hulk golf. And I mean, it's fun. I did the Hulk golf, which is actually kind of fun. They have these areas that are circles that are generated in the middle of the city at certain locations. There's 3 of them, and they're surrounded by lights, so it's a huge area. And this ball is like 12 foot tall, and he has like this girder that's like an L-shaped girder, and you have to hit this ball and get it, and you see it fly over the buildings and land, and you got to put it into the area, and then you start. And it's like 3 holes, so there's like all kinds of different things to test the actual abilities, of the controllers and what the gameplay that you have with the Hulk. But it lives up to its name. It is Ultimate Destruction. You can just go bananas if that's all you want to do. You can play the story, or you can do these side missions, which it tests your strength, tests your the speed ability, and it has the jumping ability like in the movie where it's like you can leap and then you can charge your jump and land and just continue to do the bounce thing, and then when you land, it's kind of like does the double landing where he kind of. But you see like the ground. Or if you land on concrete, it splinters when you land on it. And I mean, so they put a lot of effort and a lot of ability. They learned from their mistakes from the game that was based off of the movie, the Hulk movie, which you had cool characters, but he's kind of like the Hulk was glowing, and it's just kind of like you lost kind of the thing. And then they put in these side missions where you had to be Banner and you had to stealth around and you couldn't turn into the Hulk. That was the object, not to turn into the Hulk. Whereas this is nothing. Banner only exists in this game in the cutscenes. Everything you do in this game is you are playing the Hulk, and they took Radical, the group that developed it, took all the things that they learned from the original game, the mistakes they made, and the strengths they had, and put all this into this game, and it just comes out as a wild-ass fun game. So I highly recommend it. Most areas you see, most websites are giving it an 8.5 out of 10, and that's basically where I would. If the story was stronger, I'd be giving it a 9.5 out of 10. It's just all-out fun game. Enough said.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end. And if you would like to send us an email, you can do so at comicgeekspeak@gmail.com, and visit our blog at comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com. For information about this and other comic podcasts, you can go to comicspodcast.com. Big thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting all our files for us. Vote for us at Podcast Alley and subscribe to us using iTunes. And if you would like to get a t-shirt, you can do so. They're $10, including postage. You find those at comicgeekspeak.blogspot.com. Once again, we are brought to you in conjunction with worldfamouscomics.com. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. See you next time.